Hi, I'm Barbara with OC Rocks USA. Welcome to my tissue paper alcohol ink nail foil Posca pen tutorial. So first thing you're going to want to do is get a nice clean rock. You're going to want to make sure you get some Mod Podge. I'm actually using these distressed ink stamp pads. You can get them at any Hobby Lobby, Michael's, and you're going to want a couple of paintbrushes. First thing I do is I just stamp a couple of the distressed ink stamp pads, which is like an alcohol ink, over the top of my rock. I then put some Mod Podge on a paintbrush, and then I just smear it all around. I do this for two reasons. One, it helps the tissue paper, which is going to be the next step, stick to the rock. And two, it kind of gives it a little bit of a distressed look, which is what I enjoy by putting it underneath the tissue paper. And you'll see that color come out here in just a second. So once I've got the tissue paper on the rock, I actually just get a clean but wet paintbrush and I go along the edges of the tissue paper. Once you get it wet, you'll see how easy it comes off. That's because I don't really necessarily like a square edge on my tissue paper, and this just makes it look a little bit more vintage in my opinion. Once that's done and I have it looking the way I want, I get just a little bit more of the Mod Podge. It's just a water-based sealer glue finish one, and then I just go over the rock, making sure it's all sticking, and then I just use just a napkin, paper towel, just to wipe off any excesses and making sure that it looks all smooth. So that's it, simple as that. It's applying the tissue paper. Now I'm going to do a nail foil heart. I'm going to use the Mac Art nail glue, a UV light, nail foil, and an eyebrow pencil to smear the glue around. First thing I do is I draw in the heart. In this, just to make sure that I get the glue in the right spot. In this case, I just used a piece of paper. Just used a pencil and drew one in. I put some of the Mac Art glue right on the rock, but then because it doesn't need a lot, I'm just using an eyebrow pencil just to outline it and fill in all the crevices. When I'm done, you can actually clean off the the eyebrow pencils with some alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, but I typically just discard them because they're so inexpensive. Now, you'll see now that I actually have the Mac Art Nail Art Foil Glue under the UV light. This is a specific UV light. I have a nail art shopping list that I'll share on this post for those interested. This one takes two 30-second rounds. Each push of the button is 30 seconds. So you're going to see that I'm going to push it twice to actually cure the Mac Art Nail Art Foil Glue right on the rock. So once that's done, then I'll attach the foil. Now, I kept this on specifically. You're going to notice that I'm going to actually attach the foil twice. And the reason is, right now I'm pushing it on. You'll see it's been cured. I'm pushing it on with my finger. For the purposes of this video, you're going to see that I'm also using just a little bit of a eyeshadow pencil. You can use that to try to fill in all the crevices, especially if you have a rock that has a lot of crevices to get the glue on. But once I did it, I didn't feel like it had enough rounded edges. There wasn't enough width to the heart. So I decided I want it to be a little bit bulkier, a little bit brighter. So I'm simply just going back over the heart again, filling it in, making some of those edges rounded with the Mac Art Nail Art Foil Glue another time. So that's done. Now it's going to go through two turns of the UV light. And again, it takes two 30-second turns for it to fully cure. Now, if you had done and completed the first one, if you were fine with that, absolutely, you could just stop and you could move on. It's really up to personal preferences. I've also noticed that with some of the nail foil, and I don't know if it's based on the quality or maybe the texture of the nail foil, you might get a little bit of pits or open area in it. Another option is, because I did the purple foil, I could have potentially just used a purple Uniposca to actually draw in the heart and then put the glue over the top of it. So then it may not have shown any imperfections afterwards. But I really like the shiny of the nail foil, so that's why I'm doing it. So again, just did a second round. I'm liking the way it looks. Looks really more larger, it looks really bright. So you're probably wondering, okay, then why are you going over it again? Well, I want to give it a little bit more pizzazz. So you can double up on some of the nail foil. There's a line that's actually called holographic nail foil, and you're going to see me, there it is right there. I like this specific holographic one that has little hearts on it. And so what I'm going to do is, you just saw me do another coat of the Mac Art Nail Art Foil glue. And once it cures, again for the two 60-second time periods, I'm actually going to then go over it and just put on top of it some of the holographic rose. Again, it's a design choice, not something that you need to do, but I really just like it. It makes it, to me, look very romantic and old-fashioned, just to have that little bit of extra pizzazz over the top. So that's what I'm going to do for this specific design rock. I'm just going to figure out how do I think the holographic is going to work the best to cover the most area. Because it is holographic, it's obviously not a solid piece. It has little rose designs on it. And bam! There we go. I now have some holographic. I then typically like to outline my hearts. So that's what I'm doing here, just with a purple 1M Uniposca pen. Uniposca is my favorite type of pen. If you search our group or you go to topics and you look at Tip Tuesdays, we have a lot of different suggestions on how to take care of them, replace the tips, add more water to make them last longer. So now for this specific rock, I'm actually going to add a quote. And so again, I'm using my Uniposca 1M pens, which is my preferred pen. I'm doing a kind of a combination of the black as well as the purple for my quote. And then after this, I'm actually going to add a 3D tattoo, which will be the next step. But while I'm adding my quote, wanted to let you all know, once the rock is completely cured and dry, typically 24 hours afterwards, for all of my art media rocks, I use what's called art resin. It's a 2-part hardener that you mix 50-50, and you put it over the top of the rocks. It'll ensure that the tissue paper doesn't peel off later on, that the nail foil doesn't peel off later on. It really makes the rocks more like a paperweight, and it really ensures that they last and these do not come off. So I definitely recommend that you go to the Art Resin site and take a look. Learn more about art resin. So now I'm going to add a 3D butterfly. Again, it's a 3D butterfly tattoo. I got these off of Amazon just to give my rock a little bit more dimension, especially for this tutorial here. If you read the instructions, what it says is to put it on your item, get a wet paper towel or a cloth, and wet it for 30 seconds. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm kind of holding it down. Now I have learned to try to cut it, as close as you can to it, and that's more about placement. Otherwise, if you leave too much of the white, it doesn't always go well. And then once it does, then I just pull, it's attached to the rock, I just pull it off, and you'll see that I went over it with just a paper towel, and that was more just about getting off any excess water or anything that's on the rock. Now I'm just going to outline a little bit more, and there you go. My media rock is done.